After the release of Black Souls 1, Toro immediately began development of what would become Black Souls 2. The entire development cycle took 1 year. During that period, Toro stayed completely silent about the project, which left fans wondering whether the story of Black Souls 1 would ever receive a continuation. But all that speculation was dispelled on November 10, 2018 when Black Souls 2 was finally released. The sequel was a major improvement over the original with several new features added. Features such as the ability to use items without spending a turn and the option to swap weapons mid-fight. The game also introduced 45 brand new heroines. Sadly, the companion system was replaced by covenants, which is a system that allows players to form a covenant with a heroine and gain various benefits from that relationship. Black Souls 2 features 8 main endings plus 3 additional bad endings that were added with the third DLC. It also offers 9 new classes to choose from and introduced a new core mechanic called Zen. The higher your Zen, the more normal and happy the world appears, the version the game initially wants you to see. But when Zen drops below 0, the illusion shatters, music disappears, the true grotesque form of the residents are revealed, and the world becomes far more nightmarish. It's very similar in concept to Insight in Bloodborne. In 2019, Black Souls 2 received 2 major DLCs. The first, titled God of the Deep Ocean, launched in February 2019. It added a new underwater area and new characters. Later that year came the second DLC, titled Old King of the Chess, which introduced the Chaos Dungeon, an infinite procedurally generated area for grinding souls and loot, along with a new character named Mabel who became important later in the story. Things then quieted down until April 26, 2021 when Toro released the final DLC called Crown of the Lion and Unicorn. This added a new area accessible via Carol River and provided closure to Grimm's journey by introducing a new ending in which the protagonist finally achieved true freedom. In 2025, Otaku Plane announced that the Black Souls series would be coming to Steam, and just a few months later, the complete Black Souls collection, including all DLC, was released on Steam. Though with some heavy censorship, this Steam release made it far easier for new players to experience the entire game. Before we begin, if you've been following since part 1, you already know that our undead hero's name is Grimm. But as you can see in Black Souls 2, his memory has been wiped once again, which is why we're asked to name our protagonist at the start. For simplicity, I'll continue calling him Grimm, or occasionally our protagonist, since it both refers to Grimm. The game begins with Grimm waking to a voice that sounds awfully familiar, yet he can't remember who it was. A prompt appears asking him to choose who that person is, daughter Alice, little sister Alice, or mother Alice. Now, this choice really matters because it directly affects who appears in the ending, but for this video, I'm going with mother Alice because after selecting his Alice, Grimm wakes up to find himself resting his head in mother Alice's lap. She offers to sing him a lullaby, but Grimm declines, worried someone might see them, which is odd considering they're alone in the middle of the woods. Mother Alice then talks about her clothes, explaining how she deliberately made them look exactly like the one she wore as a child. She then went on about how she's not getting any younger and has decided to stop thinking about remarrying. Mother Alice tells Grimm to live however he wants because no matter what path he chooses, she will always stay by his side. Hearing those words, Grimm suddenly feels drowsy and lays his head back in her lap. But a few moments later, he woke up to find that Mother Alice is gone. When he tries to leave the area, the ground beneath him collapses and he plummets downward. Luckily, he survived the fall and landed in a place called the Crash Chamber. Confused, he looked around and realized he had entered Wonderland. By the way, this is not the same Wonderland from Black Souls 1. It's a bit complicated, but trust me, I'll explain it later at the end of this video. Approaching the only door in this room, Grimm discovers that it's locked. Conveniently, a random NPC falls from above and dies instantly. This allows Grimm to search the body and obtain a key. Searching dead bodies isn't mandatory, but it provides benefits such as increasing your Zen. With the key in hand, Grimm unlocks the door and climbs a steep set of stairs into the rabbit hole, a new area filled with disco music and dancing bunnies? Wait, killer bunnies! These bunnies love the taste of corpse. Nasty. As Grimm moved through the hallway, he was suddenly greeted by none other than Cheshire Cat. I hope I pronounced that name right. Cheshire asked where he's heading in such a hurry. Grimm, being the obsessive protagonist he is, instantly replied with, "I'm going to Alice." Yeah, get used to that line. Grimm says it roughly 90% of the game. Cheshire casually tells him to not worry about walking aimlessly because he'll get to his goal someday. She also suggests him to take the red door next to her, but warns her that she won't take responsibility if anything bad happens, and then vanish in a puff of smoke. Well, that's pretty irresponsible. Oh wait, she's back. Huh. Cheshire immediately reappears and offers him a gift. Her reasoning? Well, she felt sorry for his miserable ass being stuck down here, so the least she could do was give him something. After Grim picks his gift, Cheshire tells him to struggle as best as he can. Weird way to wish someone good luck, but okay. Also, this is the last time her conversation will ever make sense to you, because in future encounters she'll start speaking in riddle sentence. Anyway, Grim continues on with his journey, battling undead enemies along the way until eventually he reached the first fog room. Now if you play Black Souls 1, you already know what this means. We are fighting a boss. Entering the room, Grim came face to face with a... rabbit? Oh hell yeah, this'll be an easy fight. Wait, why is it named Headhunting Beast? There's no way it's this easy. See, I knew it! After defeating the headhunting beast, Grim exits through the door on the opposite side of the room and enters Ludwig Town. As soon as he steps outside, he sees numerous soldier corpses scattered across the ground and a suspicious looking mirror on the far end. Thinking nothing of it, he starts descending the stairs, but suddenly a red colored beast bursts out of the mirror. Its sudden appearance catches Grim completely off guard. He's not ready for a fight. Luckily, a voice shouts from below, urging him to run as fast as he can. Fortunately for Grim, as soon as he starts running, the beast loses interest and leaves him alone. There is a reason for that, but I'll leave that for the explain section. Turning his attention to the person who called him, he discovered the voice belonged to Detective Holmes. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure Holmes is not supposed to be a furry. Detective Holmes hands Grim a healing item and warns him about the white fog. Grim immediately asks if Holmes knew anything about Alice, but unfortunately Holmes has never heard of her. He does, however, mention a tavern to the southwest that might have information about her, which turned out to be a complete lie because the bunny girl working there ends up scamming him. Holmes ends the conversation by asking Grim if he knows anything about Jack the Ripper, but then he immediately dismisses the question and bids him farewell. After this encounter, Grim has a chance to visit the Library Dream. Upon arriving there, he will meet a white rabbit named Node. Similar to the Prayer Master in Black Souls 1, Node exists to help him level up. After introducing herself, Node explains the Four Nightmare currently resides in the country. The Fruminous Bandersnatch, the Mad Bird Jubjub, the Corpse Dragon Jabberwock, and finally the Red Castle Queen of Heart Lorena. These four are the major bosses that must be defeated. I would also like to mention here that unlike Black Souls 1, time is limited. Madness will eventually trigger and kill everyone, and the cause is none other than Jubjub herself. How do you know you're running out of time? Simple. At the end of the hallway in the Library Dream, there is a locked door with 10 unlit torches above it. These torches gradually lights up as you defeat the bosses in this world. Excluding the 4 main boss, there are a total of 22 optional bosses you can kill, but you only need to defeat 6 of them to progress. Because of this, it's strongly recommended to prioritize Jubjub first because if she triggers the Madness event, everyone dies, preventing you from progressing with the other characters if you're planning on entering their covenant. Returning to Ludwig Town, Grim made his way to the southwest area where he eventually reached Upper Ludwig. While wandering, he suddenly stumbled upon a crying woman desperately begging not to be killed. Before Grim can even ask what happened, Detective Holmes appeared and murders her on the spot. It turns out Holmes was Jack the Ripper all along. Holmes immediately calls Grim out for giving in to lust, even though that was never Grim's intention, and initiate a fight. Fighting Jack the Ripper isn't particularly difficult if you read the hint outside the fog room. He's weak to magic. Once you damage him enough, he starts ranting about wanting to become a savior by eliminating all the prostitutes from the world. Fun fact, that's actually lore accurate. When I researched the real Jack the Ripper, I learned his victims were believed to be prostitutes. So the game's dialogue is historically on point. After defeating Jack the Ripper, Grim arrives at Oxford University. Unfortunately, he can't enter the building yet. Looking around, he spots text on the ground that reads, "Ring required, head to the mental ward." The ring in question is called Edith's Ring. Since the exit from Oxford University leads directly to one of the 4 nightmares, Grim has no choice but to head to the mental ward to obtain the ring. Now, let me talk about the mental ward for a bit. This is probably one of the scariest areas in the entire Black Souls series until you get to DLC 3. When you first enter the building, everything seems normal. You can see patients waiting to be examined, a cute nurse selling prescription drugs. It looks like an ordinary hospital. But the moment you step through the door next to the receptionist, that's where the horror begins. Pools of blood covers the floor. That's not a good sign. If we explore the right hallway, we see a message urging Grim to turn back, and right on cue, a potted plant hanging from the wall crashed to the ground. As Grim ventures deeper, the atmosphere grows even more disturbing. Ghastly moan echoes through the building, doors opening by themselves, a shadowy figure lurks in every corner, bloody handprints can be seen in some room. What is this, a horror game? But it gets creepier. There's one particular room you can enter to grab a weapon. Inside, a tall woman roams around. I kid you not when I say that that thing genuinely freaked me out. For a moment, I forgot I was playing an RPG game. But despite that horror, Grim still managed to navigate through various disturbing rooms and corridors, and eventually reached the boss room and faced off against the Great Grey Eagle Edith. Grim defeats her relatively easily and claims Edith's ring. With the ring in hand, he can finally enter Oxford University. Exploring the interior of Oxford University, Grim eventually stumbles upon a very familiar looking area, a library room that strongly resembles the one from Wonderland. Looking around, he spots a familiar figure. At the end stands Alice. As he approached this figure, Alice suddenly asks, "What face does your Alice have?" Before Grim could answer, a battle was initiated. It turns out this is an imposter masquerading as Alice. The creature turns into a grotesque monster called... You cannot be serious. That's the name? The creature instantly transformed into a grotesque monster called Vagina Dentata. The fight is long and brutal, but Grim eventually managed to kill it. Before leaving, he inspects a doll lying not too far from where the imposter Alice stood. Nothing happens here, but keep this doll in mind as we'll get back to it later. For now, Grim exits the library and heads to the dean's office where he fights a creature guarding the exit. After effortlessly killing it, he reaches the sick clock tower and climbs to the top where he finally confronts Jubjub. Jubjub is impressed that someone was able to climb her tower. She vows to strip Grim of his clothing and forced him to submit to her. This obviously did not sit well with him, and Grim flat out rejected her advance, causing Jubjub to initiate a fight. After a long and difficult battle, Grim defeats her. In her last-ditch effort, Jubjub tries to tempt him by offering to serve him and enters a covenant. Tempting, but accepting that would cause her to kill everyone once all the torches are lit, so the correct choice here is to kill her and take her weapon. With Jubjub gone, the threat of the madness disappeared. Grim didn't waste time and set his sight on the Red Castle to confront another one of the four nightmare, Lorena, the Red Queen of Hearts. But before heading there, he makes a quick stop at the cathedral and picks up a letter from Blackwell. This letter will be important later. After successfully defeating a demon beast with Griffey's help, Grim arrives at Red Castle's Frizzle and confronts Lorena. Upon entering her throne room, Grim immediately asks about Alice, which irritates the queen, who immediately orders her knight to execute him on the spot. A battle ensues where Grim faces all three knights at once. Despite the odds, Grim managed to defeat the knights and confronts Lorena directly. He asks once again if she knows anything about Alice. Lorena just laughed it off, telling him that Alice is no longer in this world because she orders her execution. Not believing a word of it, Grim left the castle feeling disappointed as his search for Alice led to a dead end. On his way out, he runs into Griffey, who asks him to join her in subjugating a ghoul spotted at the beach of Grief. Since he has time to spare, he agrees to follow her. Arriving at the beach of Grief, Grim discovers a hidden path leading into a cave where the ghoul resides. As they explore deeper, Grim suddenly senses a dark presence. Before he can react, the figure launches and initiates a fight. Grim is shocked to discover that the ghoul is none other than Miranda, but something's different. She no longer recognizes him, yet her thirst for battle still lingers within. This makes her a dangerous opponent because Miranda is relentless in attacking Grim's party. Their fight was brutal, but Grim eventually overpowers and defeats her. After the fight, Miranda, now going by Meriphilia, reveals that she did indeed lose her memory, but the battle slowly helped her regain them. Griffey, on the other hand, is both surprised and a bit disgusted to learn that Grim knows this particular goal. She excuses herself to report back to the Queen, but takes Grim's reward in exchange for keeping his secrets. After Griffey leaves, Grim learns more about Meriphilia and what happened to her after their last encounter. After hearing everything, Grim asks her to join him on his journey to defeat the Four Nightmare. Meriphilia declines, explaining that now is not a good time because if she discovers her existence, Meriphilia will be erased again. This is almost certainly a reference to the third ending of the original Black Souls, where all of Grim's companions were killed. Although Meriphilia refused to join, she does offer to be Grim's training partner. Grim agrees since this is a good opportunity for him to grow stronger. After spending some time with Meriphilia, Grim explores the entirety of the Beach of Grief where he comes across the Sea Turtle restaurant. Knocking on his door, a timid voice can be heard from inside telling him that the place is closed. Grim uses the master key and forces his way inside. Inside the restaurant, he spots a figure behind the counter giving him a puzzled look before realizing a stranger just broke into her place. She panics and runs to hide in a corner. Grim approaches slowly, calms her down, and assures her that he means no harm. Realizing he's telling the truth, the timid girl relaxes, though she's still very wary of him. Grim forms a covenant with her and learns her name is Mock Turtle. Anyway, Mocky, yes, I'm calling her that, explains to Grimm that her shop was forced to close because someone spread rumors that she was using corpse meat as an ingredient. The rumor destroyed her reputation and drove all her customer away. Well, the person who spread those rumors better count their days because I'm about to shove this meat into their. After spending some time with Monkey on the beach, Grimm continues his journey to the Flaming Forest where he confronts Bandersnatch. As he marched towards her base, Bandersnatch decides to ambush him. Except it failed miserably. She missed her target and falls straight into a lava pit. This automatically means victory for. Guess I spoke too soon. Bandersnatch appears out of the burning lava and berates Grimm for not taking her seriously. She initiates a battle but is swiftly defeated. Humiliated, she vows revenge and flees into her cave. Grimm, not wanting to let the opportunity slip, chases after her. Bandersnatch is shocked that he followed her into her lair and prepares to fight until Grimm asks about Alice. A wave of nostalgia hits her at the sound of that name. It's been a long time since she last heard it and she has a lot to tell. Bandersnatch revealed that she was once a guardian entrusted by someone to protect Alice. With her guarding, Wonderland became a paradise for Alice, Grimm, and the Prey Master. She faithfully followed her order until one day she is overwhelmed with a sense of curiosity and peeked inside the library. There, she found Alice's remains, reduced to a lump of flesh on the ground. Realizing she had failed her duty, Bandersnatch fell into despair and blamed herself for not saving her master. Grimm reassured her that Alice is very much alive and that he's on a quest to find her. Bandersnatch is skeptical at first, but Grimm's sincerity convinced her. She offers a covenant as an apology for attacking him, which he accepts and continues his journey. Continuing on, Grimm eventually arrives at Carol River. Here, he finds an area that eerily resembles the spot where he and Mother Alice once spent time together. Grimm decides to check it out, and as he explores the place, he spots Alice beneath a tree, but before he can get close, she vanishes. In her place stands the corpse dragon Jabberwock. Jabberwock noticed him and asked if he's here to eliminate her. Without hesitation, Grimm answered yes. The fight was long and brutal, but Grimm managed to win despite being overpowered. With the 4 nightmares defeated, Grimm finally fulfills the condition needed to open the door in the library dream. Before returning, he takes a short detour to Queensland for a breather. There, he met Griffey for the last time because after this, she will return to the Red Castle and murders Lorena. Rest in peace, Red Queen of Heart. While exploring Queensland, Grimm meets Prickett, who seems to take an interest in him. She asks him out on a date, and since he has some time, he agrees. During the date, we learn more about the world's lore by watching a movie and listening to Prickett's random chatter. After the date, she gives him a ring that lets him understand incomprehensible language. We'll talk about this stuff in the explain section because Prickett and her ring play some major role in this whole series. Now, before leaving Queensland, Grimm explores the castle one last time and stumbles upon a basement area. On the ground, he finds a writing that reads, "Presents ahead." Curious about the writing, Grimm proceeds to the locked jail cell, and the moment he looks at the present, his blood boils and rage floods his mind. Inside the cell is none other than Mary Sue herself, the creator of Wonderland who he thought he had killed in Black Souls 1. Mary Sue, who now goes by Mary Ann, calls out to Grimm and begs him to free her from confinement. Though he hates her, a small part of him still believes that she might have changed. That trust vanished the instant she's freed because she mocks him openly, calling him an idiot for falling for the same trick twice. But as Mary Ann tries to leave the prison, she's suddenly thrown back by an invisible barrier. Realizing she can't escape, she returns to her cell. This won't be the last time we see her. After that unpleasant encounter, Grimm continues on slaying demon beasts and bosses until all the torches are lit, but despite his effort, he still hasn't found Alice. Feeling hopeless, he returns to the library dream to see if Note can help him, but when he arrives, he finds her staring at the white door. Grimm approached her and learned that not long ago she saw a cat carrying a blonde girl through the door. Realizing that girl is Alice, Grimm thanked her for the info and immediately went into the white door. As soon as he entered the door, he was taken to a child's room. Here, he could interact with Cheshire for the last time and learn about her past. She told Grimm how she had died not long after giving birth and that she only remembered Alice as a little girl. She stated that it was the happiest moment of her life and ended her conversation by telling Grimm that she would meet him on the other side of the door. Interacting with the white fog, Grimm could see Alice, but as he got close to her, a beast named Dina suddenly appeared and initiated a battle. Dina was tough and gave Grimm a hard time, but he was able to overpower her and kill her. Now here's where things get a bit weird. Now remember at the start of the video I mentioned that your choice of Alice will affect how she'll appear at the end? Well, after she was saved, Alice thanks our protagonist and then a prompt appeared telling us to make love with her. Yeah, you get the idea. The two of them made love, and depending on what Alice you choose, it's gonna be a little bit weird. And by weird, I mean it involves incest. I mean, I swear to God, what is it with this game and obsession with incest? Anyway, after making passionate love, Grimm walked into the white light. As he slowly moved towards it, he came to a realization that he wasn't holding Alice's hand. In fact, she wasn't even there. The game ended with Grimm asking, "Where is Alice?" So Black Souls 2 has 11 endings. Ending A, B, C, D, and E can only be obtained normally, but for ending F and G, they can only be obtained in a new playthrough with 0 Sen. Finally, ending H, which is the true ending, can only be obtained by finishing DLC 3, which is the hardest DLC for this game. There is also 3 bad endings which can only be obtained during ending G and ending H. Now, since we already covered ending A, the rest of this section will be dedicated to the other endings. Starting with ending B. This ending is titled Birth, or Breed. Look, it'll make sense why at the end of it. To get this ending, there are some steps that need to be completed. Grimm need to raise their covenant of 9 specific companions to level 3. These 9 companions are Node, Bill, Dodo, Shisha, the Duchess, the Mad Hatter, Mock Turtle, Walrus, Tweedledee, and Tweedledum. You need them alive to enter their covenant, which is why Jub needs to be killed first. Otherwise, she'll trigger the Madness event, killing all of the companions. Once all of the companions' levels reach level 3, Grimm followed the same path as ending A, except this time, instead of going with Alice at the end, Grimm returned to the library dream and made love with Node. After he finished their lovemaking session, he told Node that he was tired and had enough of everything and wanted things to just stop. Grimm then decided to abandon Alice, which Node happily accepted. This ending ends with Node and Grimm inside what seems to be a breeding chamber. Dozens of egg-shaped cocoons can be seen. A few seconds later, the place shakes and the egg-shaped cocoons burst open, revealing NPCs that Grimm had encountered before. I find this ending to be disturbing because it reveals that all the female NPCs that Grimm made love were actually his children. So, again, incest is wincest in this game? Yikes. Next is ending C, Catastrophe. This ending is pretty easy to get. In fact, this will probably be the first ending you'll get if you lose to Dina. In this ending, Dina kills Alice after Grimm failed to kill her. Grimm describes how he can hear the sound of claw biting into flesh and seeing blood spraying everywhere. Overwhelmed with guilt and despair, he can feel his soul shattered from within and he died. Next is ending D and E. They're pretty much similar. Ending D is called Death. The requirement for this ending is to chase after Dina and defeat her. After that, choose the kill option and kill Alice. Finally, ending E, which is called Exclusion. This ending is similar to ending D, except you need to kill Alice while having 0 Sen. In this ending, after defeating Dina, Grimm picked the kill option and it was revealed that the Alice he had been chasing around since the start was actually a monster. This Alice transformed into a hideous monster, and depending on what Alice we choose at the start, we got a different type of Alice to fight with. Mother Alice transformed into an elk goddess. Daughter Alice transformed into the Black One, and little sister Alice transformed into a shadow demoness. Once Alice was defeated, the story ends. Or does it? Is it really over? I mean, Alice was a monster all along, so Grimm defeated her and that's the end of the journey, right? Well, no. You see, Alice might still be out there. The story isn't done yet. There's still a lot of things that we haven't seen yet. We are barely scratching the surface of what Black Souls 2 has to offer, and we can only see that if we reach the final true ending. But before we go through the final true ending, let's discuss DLC 1 and DLC 2. Both of these DLCs came out the same year in 2019. The first DLC, called God of the Deep Ocean, unlocks a new area called the Deep Sea, which can be accessed through the Beach of Grief by standing near a bubbly water. After some exploring, Grimm entered an area where the writings on the floor warned him about a bitch ahead. That bitch is none other than Zoa, an insolent girl who has no respect for people. True to that warning, this brat is hella annoying. I guess she's what you call in Japanese a mesugaki, an annoying brat archetype. If that still didn't convince you that Zoa is insufferable, interacting with her will lead to her asking Grimm for a favor where she wants to distribute polluted fish. When you return to her, she reveals that the fish she gave turns people into fishmen, which means the fish people you fought in Billingsgate were once human. She's the reason why they become like that, but instead of remorse, she revels in their suffering. Real scumbag. Her next request will be to eliminate Walrus. By the way, this is the person she asks you to kill. Look, between Walrus and this annoying brat, I prefer Walrus. I mean, look at that. God damn! Anyway, there's no benefit to killing Walrus because she's tied to ending B, so ignoring this request is the right thing to do. After some exploring, Grim met Walrus, who was initially in despair because she hadn't seen the carpenter for years now. She tells Grim that the last time she saw the carpenter was years ago when he was heading deeper under the sea. Walrus then asks Grim to pass her ring to him should he ever find him down there. This will be the final task for this DLC, and they didn't make it easy. First up, before you reach there, you have to pass this giant well. Not a problem, right? Except this well can one-shot you if it attacks you. Not only that, you also have to race against it. There is this one area where you literally have to be a second faster than it, because if you're not, then you will engage in an unwinnable battle. Eventually, Grim reached an open area where he was ambushed by the Deep Sea Knight. I have to pause here for a moment and appreciate how hyped the soundtrack is for this fight. It started off somber and melancholic and it builds up. Then, when you reach phase 2, that's where shit starts to get hype. Some might think it's out of place, but I think it fits well. The music really hypes you up during the battle, and I don't mind prolonging this fight. Hey, Editing Red here. While I was editing this part, I found out that there's actually another version of this song. I did listen to it and I'm devastated. I like the one we have right now, but I'm not gonna lie. This previous one sounds better. The OST fits much better for the fight. Makes me wonder why they patched the song out of the game. After defeating the Deep Sea Knight, Grim continues on and finds himself inside the house of a princess. There he met Kuti, Zoa's big sister. Thankfully, she's not obnoxious and insufferable like her little sister Zoa. However, she does have an obsession with wanting to be impregnated by a prince. Fortunately, Grim fits the bill, so you get the option to do it with her. After this, Grim returns to Walrus and passes the news about the death of her beloved carpenter. Walrus was devastated but quickly composed herself and thanked Grim for giving her the news. This is the end of DLC 1. Moving on to the second DLC called Old King of Chess, there is not much to talk about this one. DLC 2 introduced the Chaos Dungeon, an infinite randomly generated dungeon that allows the player to farm souls and items. This area is managed by Mabel. Mabel is the star of this DLC and she will be relevant in DLC 3. For now, we only get an introduction to her. Later on, once you reach layer 9 around floor 200, you'll face the dungeon boss called the Old King. This is where you'll get a taste of what bosses in DLC 3 would be like moving forward. There's no brute forcing your way like before. Instead, the Old King's fight is more like a puzzle. What I meant by that is that once you lower its health to a certain amount, it'll start spawning clones and you cannot hurt the Old King. Killing the clones is the only way to hurt it, and you need to do it fast because as you're fighting it, the Old King will regenerate its health. It's more of a gimmick fight which you need to get used to since it'll be DLC 3's standard way of fighting. So ending F and G can only be obtained by starting a new cycle and progressing through the hidden route. This can only be done by playing with Zero Sen. Playing with Zero Sen is interesting because everything is not as it seems with a full Sen playthrough. This is where you'll see the true form of the world in Black Souls, and I gotta say, it's not as pretty as we thought. I won't go into much detail about what changes in the world, otherwise it'll be a long video, but I will list out some changes that shocked me. The slaughterhouse is a good example. With a 100 Sen playthrough, you'll see pigs inside the cage, but when you play it at 0, you'll see that the pigs are actually human. Which means, when Mock Turtle was accused of using human meat, it's not actually far-fetched. The Duchess as well. On a 100 Sen playthrough, you can see her throwing pigs in the air before eating them. Guess what she's really eating? Yeah, you guessed it. Human babies. That was morbid to say the least. There's a lot more things that changed which I didn't mention, but Evil Archive did make a video showcasing what changes in Zero Sen playthrough, which I highly suggest you check it out. Anyway, with that out of the way, we return to the crash chamber where upon waking up, Grim discovered that the place was crawling with eyeball-shaped monsters. The music also stopped and the walls had eyes seemingly following Grim wherever he went. Grim repeated the stuff that he did, slaying monsters and defeating the headhunting rabbit. Once he did that, he went through the same path and finally reached the edge of the stairs where he was chased by a red beast in the previous loop. He readied his weapon to slay the beast, but what came out shocked him. It was not the red beast, but Red Hood that came out. Red Hood immediately recognized Grim and asked if he remembered her. When Grim said he did, relief washed over her face. She explained that she's here to find the mastermind behind all of this mess and kill her. Red Hood invited Grim to join her in this quest, but Grim as usual declines because finding Alice is much more important. Right on cue, Detective Holmes shouted in a gibberish language and Red Hood disappeared. This will not be the last time Grim will encounter her. Now the rest of this playthrough is similar except for one thing. In every bonfire you arrive at, Cheshire will be present, but in a Zero Sen playthrough, Red Hood will take her place. It's really important that we meet Red Hood in 10 different places to make sure we trigger the hidden route. We also need to get Melissu's ring, which means you need to save her when you're in Queensland. And finally, we need to find 6 hidden memories of Alice. These are scattered all across the map. Once all of these are done, just finish through the game normally and start a new cycle. However, this time when we're told to choose an Alice, refuse all of that and you'll get to choose Alice Little. A cutscene plays out where Alice will speak in a gibberish language, and seconds later we are taken to a new area called the Little Girl's Nightmare. If this looks familiar, that's because you already saw this place in ending B. Well, a portion of it to be exact. Anyway, after much exploring, Grim finds Node near a bonfire and learns that Wonderland is losing its form and beginning to collapse from within. It was also revealed here that Grim was an amalgamation of various authors. Mary Sue, the genius creator, created Grim by stuffing various authors into one vessel, all to make him into a being far surpassing humanity with the qualities fitting to be the Great One's husband. She also revealed that the Crawling One made a plan to produce offspring of Great Ones by putting Grim in an endless cycle of copulation, as we see in ending B. Note, who seems remorseful of her action and wanted nothing more than for all of this to stop, promises that she won't get in this way since she felt sorry for Grim. She then ended her conversation by telling Grim that she is grateful to be able to stay by his side and gives him a kiss. Grim continues on with his journey and eventually reached the final area. Red Hood was also there, and she speculated that both of them were summoned there for a reason. Suddenly, Mary Ann appeared and attacked Red Hood. With Wonderland collapsing from within, this gave her the opportunity to leave. Here, Grim is presented with 2 choices, side with Mary Ann or Red Hood. Obviously, the choice here is to side with Red Hood, but if for some reason you decide to choose with Mary Ann, this will lead to ending F, where Mary Ann and Grim fought Red Hood. When she's defeated, Mary Ann will kill her, and the sad thing here is that Red Hood didn't fight back. She just let herself be killed. We then learn from Mary Ann about the Crawling One. Apparently, it was her mother's husband with an odd obsession with humans. He then took over what she had built after Grim defeated her in Black Souls 1. Ever since then, Mary Ann hated them to the point where she wanted to kill them. Well, she finally got her wish in this ending. Entering the final room, they are taken to an area called Love where a single Alice with no face stands in the middle. It then spoke in a gibberish language before initiating a fight. Thankfully, the fight didn't take too long, and after a few hits, the creepy Alice dies. After the fight, the game skips into the future where we see Grim and Mary Ann making love non-stop every single day for 4 years. Mary Ann urged Grim to start creating stories again, but Grim ignores her. Not because he's doing it on purpose, but because Grim lost his mind ages ago. He sees Mary Ann as Alice. Ending F ends with Grim torturing Mary Ann by choking her the same way she died in ending C in Black Souls 1, while the Crawling Ones were watching them from above. This ending implies that they never won the fight at all and the Crawling Ones had been in control all this time. Well, who am I to care? This is a well-deserved end for Mary Ann. But let's rewind back to the moment when Grim had to make a choice. This time, he chose Red Hood. Realizing that Grim had made a fool out of her for the second time, Mary Ann exploded in anger and initiated a fight. Now, if you fought her in Black Souls 1, you know that she's extremely powerful, but thankfully, unlike her previous iteration, this version of Mary Ann is much weaker since she was stripped of her godhood. With the combined effort of both Red Hood and Grim, Mary Ann was easily defeated. However, before she died, she revealed that she had changed Red Hood and Grim's story. She made sure that Red Hood cannot live past 20 years old, and as for Grim, she put a curse on him that will kill all of the people that had a deep connection with him. This is her last effort to piss them off, and not gonna lie, it worked not just for Grim, but for me as a player as well because of that stupid punchable face. Luckily, Grim read my mind and punched the living shit out of Mary Ann so hard that she's thrown to the wall and died. Good job, Grim. Now let's replay that again. Entering the final area, Grim was taken to the riverside where he found Alice Little standing under a huge tree. She congratulated him for coming this far and commended him for being strong despite facing hardship along the way. Alice then pulled him close and the two made love without a care in the world. As the two passionately made love, Grim began having doubts whether this is what he wanted. The lovemaking session continued, but each passing time, Alice began to look more and more demented. Her face gradually disappeared, leaving only a black hole. Her neck stretched and bent, dozens of arms came out and tried to grab hold of him. They almost got him until Red Hood appeared and cut off Alice's head. This brings him back to reality, and to his surprise, he finds out that they were in the breeding room all along. The Crawling One went mad and attempted to attack Red Hood, but Toro, her dog, appeared and attacked it. For some reason, he can talk now. I mean, why? You know what? I'm not gonna question that. The three of them faced off against the Crawling One, and let me tell you, I hate her design so much. It's just an amalgamation of various Alice, making her look weird. Anyway, Just a nitpick on my side, but the crawling one has two phases. The first one is easy, but the second phase is where things get serious, as it can one or two shot Grim with its attack. But despite the odds, Grim defeats the crawling one and Wonderland begin to collapse from within. Grim and Red Hood wasted no time and ran away, but as they were running, a huge rock fell down, separating both of them. To make matters worse, the three fake Alice appeared and attempted to stop them. Without any choice, Red Hood made a decision to stay and stall the enemy. Grim was against this, but Red Hood insisted that he go since she's confident that she won't die. With a heavy heart, Grim makes a difficult decision to leave her behind. Running away like his life depends on it, Grim eventually found the exit to Wonderland and returned to the real world. The game ends with Grim reuniting with Red Hood, who lost an arm in their fight against the three fake Alice. She gave Grim a warm smile and told him that everything is over. Finally, he got his happy ending and lived happily ever after. Is what I would like to say, but unfortunately no, there is no happy ending. Remember that curse that Marianne gave to both of them? Yeah, that hasn't disappeared at all, and to make things worse, Grim wakes up once again back inside the library dream. The cycle repeats. Grim is back to suffer once again. When Grim opened his eyes, he was back in the library dream. Looks like killing the crawling one didn't help at all. He's still stuck in a never-ending loop. As he racked his head to find a solution to this problem, he came across Cheshire, who was lazing around in the dungeon. She explained that she's here because Node saved her and revealed that she knew about Grim being stuck in a never-ending loop. She apologized for fighting him because she was only doing what she was instructed to do, and told Grim that if he wanted to change his fate, he needed to look out for a little boat at Carol River. But there was still not enough info yet. What could he find in Carol River? As he wondered about that, Grim remembered the doll sitting in the library in Oxford University. The doll might provide clues, and sure enough, when he got there, the doll came to life and recognized him as her master. Grim then asked the doll if he knew how to stop this cycle, and he told him to go to Winterbell to find the answer he needed. Finally, this could be it. Grim is certain that this will be his last hope of stopping this cycle. With this new bit of information, he went to Carol River and took the boat there to a place called the Hidden Snow Garden. After a bit of exploring, he spotted a door magically standing in the middle of the woods. Without hesitation, he entered it, not realizing that Mabel was secretly watching him from afar. A few things before we begin. Welcome to DLC 3, one of the hardest Black Souls 2 DLC ever, and I learned why it's considered that the hard way. You see, at first I tried going in at level 250, confident that I can take on the enemy here. Nope, I got completely destroyed in a matter of minutes. It was only later I learned that you need to be max level and have stats above 10 to 15k to survive here. Also, the bosses here have their own domains, meaning they can cast debuff on you when you're fighting them, so that's why you can't brute force your way like before. Personally, I feel like this is a good thing since it forced you to constantly change your strategy in order to win the fight. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can finally begin this torturous journey. DLC 3 began with an unconscious Grim inside a coffin. Dr. Florence inspected him and found out that he's still alive. She then moved into a hospital bed before leaving to check on the other patient. Shortly after, Grim woke up and found out that he was brought to an area called the Crimean Nurse Graveyard. He started exploring other areas and quickly learned that the enemies here are unkillable, forcing him to move around discreetly. Eventually, he found the stairs to the first floor where he encountered one of the most terrifying enemies in Black Souls 2. Known only as the Lamp Lady, this terrifying figure haunts the first floor. Unfortunately for Grim, he's about to experience the terror of it. As soon as he reached the first floor, the lights suddenly flickered and seconds later the Lamp Lady appears and chased after him. This figure couldn't be attacked, so running away was the only option left. Running away like his life depends on it, Grim desperately tried to enter any room he saw to get away from the Lamp Lady, but unfortunately none of them opened. He kept trying until he reached a hall with one door at the end of it. Luckily for him, this door could be opened and he immediately ran inside and slammed the door behind. Thinking he was safe from the Lamp Lady, Grim breathed a sigh of relief, but suddenly he heard a loud pounding on the door. The worst was not over yet. Grim knew his last option was to hide from it, but the problem is, this room doesn't have any hiding place. As he looked around for places to hide, he noticed a writing on the wall that told him not to move. Now this looked really suspicious, but since he's running out of time, Grim decided to do what it said. The pounding on the door intensified, and a few moments later, the lights went off and the door violently opened. The Lamp Lady was inside. Grim could hear footsteps moving slowly into the room. The Lamp Lady moved around the room as if making sure her prey was not there. A few seconds later, she left. However, this won't be the last time Grim will encounter the Lamp Lady. Grim continued his exploration and eventually found a switch that turned on the power to the elevator. Before leaving, he had the option to interact with a strange angel dancing on top of a pillar. This angel is Longerina, and she'll offer Grim a chance of salvation. Now generally that means you're gonna get some buff. Pretty neat. Except her salvation meant killing us without warning. This asshole made me go through the lamp lady chase again. Okay then, what about rejecting her offer? Oh yeah, we survived, alright. We survived. Except this donut turned the difficulty all the way up to +9. No wonder the boss fight took an hour or so to die. I hate this girl. After turning on the power, Grim returned to the first floor to ride the elevator, but before that, he examined the strange platform in the middle of the room and found out that it opened a secret hallway. To operate it, he needed to light up the platform. With this goal in mind, he headed to the second floor where he met Dr. Jekyll, who gave him a prescriptive drug for free in exchange for Grim listening to his sad story. According to Dr. Jekyll, he used to be a doctor working in a mental ward and experimented on one patient. He described the patient as an individual struggling with his murderous second personality with a warped sense of justice. This individual is none other than Detective Holmes. Dr. Jekyll confessed that when he saw Holmes, he felt envious of him and that drove him to experiment on him. After years of tormenting him, Dr. Jekyll finally developed a drug that allows him to have a split personality as well. He named the other personality Mr. Hyde. On the surface, Jekyll is a virtuous gentleman and well-respected individual, but Mr. Hyde, however, is a violent, murderous person who kills for fun. As soon as he explains all of this, Dr. Jekyll transforms into his other personality and attempts to kill Grim. Though he was taken by surprise, Grim managed to fight him off and kill the sick doctor. After their fight, Grim picked up a lamp spark hidden in Dr. Jekyll's desk. He continued on going through all the other floors but only managed to find 2 more of the lamp spark. Confused, he decided to return to the first floor, but on his way down, for some odd reason, he felt as if something was watching him. Shaken by this, he tried to push the first floor button to speed up the elevator, but to his horror, there was no such thing. All the buttons were replaced with the 5th floor button, a floor that didn't exist as far as he knows. Since there was no way to go, he pushed the 5th floor button and this happened. When the elevator door opened, the lamp lady appeared and chased him. Running away through the maze-like hallway to get away from her, Grim eventually managed to outrun the lamp lady and arrive at a graveyard where he picked up the final lamp spark. Finally, he could complete the puzzle and open the secret door, but as Grim was about to leave, the lamp lady appeared and blocked the exit. Slowly, she approached him, but before she got close to him, the lamp lady suddenly stopped and stared at him. Grim noticed this weird behavior and seized the opportunity to run away from her and return to the first floor. He then completes the puzzle, unlocking a hidden area that took him to a boss fight. Side note here, welcome to what I called a Taste of Black Souls 2 DLC 3 boss. This is where the game introduced us to a new mechanic called a boss domain, and it does not play around. This area and the one next to it is a test to us whether or not we are ready to face the DLC. Because trust me, if you are not leveled properly, you're gonna suffer. Each boss in this DLC has their own unique domain. For example, this first boss has a domain called Plague Demonium, where people who are caught up in it lose 10 HP every turn and your items are disabled. Not a fan of this restriction, but for what it's worth, it forced you to adapt and change your strategy, which I kinda like because it made the game more engaging. After fighting the nurse call and easily defeating her, Grim proceeded on and entered another area where he saw the founding Dr. Florence herself. She tried to send Grim away by telling him that he's sick and he should rest. When Grim wouldn't budge, she told him that she knew about him being an undead was nothing but a curse, and the one who did this was a being called the Other One. She even went so far as to tell him that Grim might have to stay in this hospital forever. This obviously didn't sit well with Grim since he's devoted to finding Alice at all costs, so he rejected her suggestion. Florence tried reasoning with him once again, but Grim still refused her. This prompted her to initiate a fight to make him submit to her. The fight with Florence was easy at the start, but after depleting 90% of her health, Florence would recite the modified version of the Hippocratic Oath and transform into a grotesque creature called the Divine Beast with a domain called Area of the Sanitizing Angel. Or as I would like to call it, the "oh shit, you're gonna die so many times" domain, because this domain lowers your attack and defense by 100%. Not 10, not 30, but 100%. Not only that, every ability and item you have that can heal you will now do damage instead. Pretty fun, right? Who says DLC 3 is not fun? I love this DLC, it makes me wanna kill. Despite the clear disadvantage, Grim keeps fighting her. It was hard and brutal and took many attempts, but Grim finally managed to defeat her. In her final moment, she stumbled to her bed, unable to grasp the reality that she had just lost. As her life slowly faded, Grim handed her Blackwell's letter. She was confused at first but mustered up enough strength to open the letter and read it. When she's done, a somber look loomed over her face. Whatever it was that Blackwell said to her filled her with sadness. She then gave Grimm her full name and promised that she'll be there to help him when he needed her the most. After that promise, Florence disappeared. Grimm continues on with his journey, taking the elevator from Florence's room. As he was riding it, the elevator suddenly stopped midway and plummeted to the ground. Grimm managed to jump at the last second and landed inside a jail cell. Luckily, the jail door was unlocked and he could get out. Before leaving, he found someone in the next cell named Playwright Lord. He's going to harass Grimm multiple times in this journey, but we'll talk about him in the explain section. For now, let's just move on. Going outside, Grimm traveled through the snowy road and arrived in a place called the Avalanche Wood, where he met Carnegie, the ghost finder. He explained that the lion and the unicorn fought here for the possession of the crown. The crown, as Carnegie explained, had the ability to grant the user anything it desired, and the one who obtained it will become the ruler of Winterbell. He then warned Grimm that he needs to choose wisely over who he should side with in this war between the two factions. Okay, side note here, there are two paths that we can take to progress the story. On the left side is the lion's path. On this path, you'll find the white lion Leiden. On the right side is the unicorn's path. On this path, you'll find the white unicorn Unis. For this video, I'll be taking the lion's path. There are two reasons for that. One, that route is longer and has more rewards than the unicorn path. And two, the white unicorn Leiden is fucking hot. Like holy crap, Leiden got me acting all funny. Like I wanna bury my head in the Anyway, after much consideration, Grimm chose the lion's path where he met Leiden, the chief of the Ravenous Fang Troop. She invited Grimm to join her pack because she noticed his strength. Grimm had the option to accept immediately, but what's the fun in that? He challenged her to a duel and fought her to a tie, further impressing her with his raw strength. After that fight, Leiden informed Grimm that they'll be heading north to where the White Castle is to seize the crown. It will be a long journey and the weather will be harsh, but Leiden is confident that they can make it. She then excused herself to get a head start and told Grimm to catch up to her as soon as possible. On his way to the White Castle, he passed through an area held together by a giant chain called the Windless Valley and came face to face with a boss guarding the bridge named the Wind of Winterbell. This being is apparently an outer one, yet despite having that title, it was easily defeated. Grimm continued on and found Leiden on the other side, who again was impressed by how strong he is. She congratulated him by defeating the other one, and as a reward she gave him a hug. Lucky bastard! Leiden then informed Grimm that she had sent out her brother to begin the invasion, so they should hurry and join them. After crossing another bridge, they reached the entrance of the White Castle where Unis, the white unicorn, waited for them. She begrudgingly told Leiden that she is not fit to be a ruler because of her barbaric ways and planned to get the crown for herself. She then instructed her unicorns to block them off while she ran to the castle. Leiden, furious at what Unis did, slaughtered her unicorns and chased after her, leaving Grimm all alone. Since Leiden would be busy hunting down Unis, Grimm decided to head straight to the castle and obtain the crown for her. But unexpectedly, Unis was waiting for him at the entrance. Seems like she managed to escape Leiden. When Grimm approached her, she started telling him how she admired the White Queen but felt betrayed by her when she fell in love with a man who Unis claimed had ruined the White Queen. She then told Grimm not to be led astray by Leiden as she is not fit to rule Winterbell and will only bring destruction. She begged him to see reason and side with her so they both could kill Leiden, but Grimm refused. This angered Unis and she initiated a fight. Alright, side note here, this is yet another annoying fight because Unis has a domain that nullifies our skills, disables skill-based buff, and inflicts fear on us, making her attack unavoidable. On top of that, she can produce clones which will insta-kill you if you attack the wrong one. Just f***ing great! After the fight with Unis, Leiden appeared and rejoined Grimm. She then spoke to her and told her that she doesn't care about her ideals because to her, she considered Unis as a weak being who can't back up anything she said without getting help from others. She then told her one last time that she finds her annoying with her constant preaching about how bad and desire is before killing her off. After killing Unis, Grimm had a brief conversation with Leiden where he asked her if she wanted to destroy the country now that she's the rightful owner of the crown. Leiden paused for a moment before answering him that she only wishes to create a world where everyone's free and she could live together with her family. They talked for a bit more before the two of them headed into the castle to claim the crown. Now Leiden was expecting her brother to wait for them at the entrance, but when they entered the gate, the sky was red and raining blood. Both were confused and wondered what could have caused this. Then, out of nowhere, they heard an ear-piercing laugh. When they looked up, Grimm saw Mabel descending from above. She explained that the sky turned red because she brutally killed Leiden's underling. You see, she was trying to get into the castle but they wouldn't let her through, so she decided to kill them out of reflex by throwing them into the sky and dismembering them. The bloody rain is the result of their blood bursting. Mabel then told Leiden that she is an actor and her part is over. Leiden realized that Mabel was going to kill her and was ready to retaliate but stopped when she realized that she was too strong for her. Grimm, not wanting to lose a potential ally, stepped in front and defended her. Surprised by Grimm's action, Mabel gave him a chance to say his goodbye and told him to wait for her at the castle's entrance. When Mabel left, Dylan angrily asked Grimm why he decided to protect her, since being protected is considered to be weak in her eyes. Grimm told her that strength isn't everything and surviving is much better than losing one's life. Dylan went quiet for a bit before telling Grimm that while she understood what he said, there were too many differences in their ideals. Before leaving, she told him that he can do whatever he wants with the crown, but this will be the last time they'll ever meet. Grimm then met up with Mabel and the two of them entered the castle. Now Mabel made it very clear that she had already laid out the easiest path for their journey. Simply follow her, pull some levers, the door open, and they will arrive at their final destination, but what's the fun in that? You see, Winterbell is the place where all the secrets in Black Souls will be revealed, but by following Mabel's optimized path means you won't get to experience everything. So don't follow her yet. I mean, there's nothing to do in Winterbell, so for the time being, just explore on your own. Also, around Winterbell, you'll come across various familiar characters and some items that even explain the lore about Alice and Grimm. If you're interested in that explanation, skip to this timestamp. Otherwise, we'll continue on. After Grimm finished exploring, he went to the top right path where he saw the figure of Alice running away and entering into a house. As he approached the house, a message was written on the floor saying Alice. Could this be the real one? Well, there's only one way to find out. Welcome to the Winterbell visual novel section. This part surprises me because it's a completely new game. I don't think there's too much to talk about here without spoiling the majority of the story, so do check out the explain section at this timestamp because most of what we experience in the Winterbell visual novel section will be properly explained there. I'll briefly go over what this visual novel is about before we continue on. The Winterbell visual novel section is mostly shown in the POV of Lewis Carroll and his experience with the little siblings. The game is divided into 4 days. Each day, Lewis will try to socialize with the little siblings, and it always ends up with him being intimate with them. As the game progresses, things get creepier. Especially on the third night. The third night basically turns the game into a horror game. Tell me, why did the developer decide it was a good idea to include this uncanny looking tall lady? And this smiling man? Imagine my surprise when I see this creature at 2 AM. Now, for the visual novels, surprisingly there's only one good ending and 2 bad ones. Though for the good ending, it's kinda questionable why it was even a good ending in the first place. The requirement for this ending is to be intimate with all the little siblings. This means you gotta be intimate with Alice, Edith, and Lorena in the span of 4 days. Do this correctly and you won't even encounter the tall lady and the smiling man. For some reason, they only appear if you're on the bad ending. Anyway, after fulfilling that requirement, Grimm left the little household on the 4th day. He then got the option to look back and say goodbye, only to discover that all 3 siblings were nothing but puppets. Next is the first bad ending. To be honest, I don't even know why this is even a bad ending in the first place. The requirement for this ending is to not do anything to the little siblings and just leave the house on the 4th day. Now, even though this is a bad ending, I consider this to be the best ending for the visual novel section because of how creepy it gets on the 3rd day and how much lore and story you get in this ending. And lastly, the second bad ending. The requirement for this ending is to avoid doing anything with the little siblings and just stay in your room for 4 days. Though this is the best bad ending you can get, it's also one of the saddest endings in my opinion because at the end, all the siblings died. And with that, we wrapped up the Winterbell visual novel section. Now it's time to end this once and for all. After Grimm finished the visual novel section, Mabel greeted him outside the door and told him that the Grand Guignol wishes to meet him. Without wasting time, the two made their way to the White Castle. Here, Mabel showed him the stairs that lead to the basement. Before letting him enter, she asked Grimm if he had any unfinished business since there's no turning back once he entered the basement. Grimm thought about it for a while but couldn't find any immediate answer. Instead, he asked Mabel why she was doing all of this. Mabel responded by saying that she was only here to guide him to the truth. She also revealed that the Crawling One, the White Queen, and Mary Sue were responsible for this cycle repetition, which is why the Grand Guignol needed him to end this once and for all. Somewhat satisfied, the two descended to the basement. When they arrived, Grimm saw a stuffed toy placed on a table in the middle of the room. Thinking nothing of it, he decided to ignore it and move past it, only to be locked out and separated from Mabel. It was here that Mabel betrayed him and revealed to him that she was only pretending to be nice. She also revealed that Grand Guignol didn't summon in here to stop the cycle but rather to become a sacrifice. They did this because Grimm's current body was unfit to be a king, so they wanted to destroy his body and transfer his soul to a new one. Grimm couldn't believe what he just heard. There must be something that she wasn't telling him. He desperately tries to break the jail bar using all of his weapon, but it was no use. As the walls slowly closed in, Mabel finally told him the truth. This place was an execution ground for her. It was built specifically for her, so no matter what Grim did, she could never escape. Grim went silent as the wall kept closing in. Realizing her time was almost up, Mabel confessed to Grim that as an outer one, normally they weren't supposed to have feelings, making them unable to understand human. So when they were inside the wine room, Mabel was just pretending to be drunk to appear friendly to him. But over time, as she spent time with him, Mabel somehow developed feelings. She then told Grim not to cry for her and asked him to close his eyes. Seconds later, the wall fully closed in on her, crushing her to death. Grim stood there for a while before continuing on. He made his way down the stairs and through a large open doorway that led him to a vast stage. There, standing in the center stage, was Grand Guignol in her doll form. The instant Grim laid eyes on it, he felt an irresistible urge to come closer. Unbeknownst to him, Grand Guignol has been controlling him from the very beginning. She offered him a chance to become one with her, which Grim desperately resisted. It wasn't easy, but through sheer willpower he succeeded. Enraged by his defiance, Grand Guignol initiated a battle, one that would take everything Grim had to defeat her. Alright, here we go. The final battle. Now, it's worth reading a little bit about Grand Guignol, but TLDR, Grand Guignol is a scare theater in Paris. It operated from the late 19th to mid 20th centuries. It became legendary for staging extremely graphic, violent, and shocking horror plays. Typically, there's 5 to 6 play every evening, but sometimes it could go up to 7. Now, why am I mentioning the real Grand Guignol? Well, because like its real counterpart, there are 7 phases to this boss fight. Yeah, you heard me right. 7 phases. The first phase was easy, but starting the second phase and onward, they don't play around. Second phase boss fight has a domain that gives us a debuff of negative 100% attack, defense, magic, and magic defense. Thankfully, these are on cycle, so you can still plan on what attack you're gonna use. Third phase boss fight has a domain that disables our buff, and for each turn, we lose 10% of our evasion and defense. This can stack up to 100%. Fourth phase boss fight has a domain that disables our item usage, reduces our damage to half, and all team members lose max HP and speed every turn. The fifth boss fight has a domain that reduces our defense and magic defense by 95%, and the boss gain bonus action in each turn, meaning they can dish out their skill twice in a row, and they also gain immunity to any skill that inflicts element or debuff on them. But if you somehow manage to survive all 5 phases, the 6th one will make you laugh in despair. This boss has a domain that gives us negative 30% to all stats, negative 100% to all elements, resistance, and negative 20% to crit, accuracy, crit evasion, and evade. Do you like missing every attack? I sure do. I love missing my attack, especially when you're close to the end and this son of a bitch kills you, so you have to restart all the f***ing fight all over again. God, I love torturing myself with these games. But if you somehow manage to fight through all 6 phases, there's a final 7th one. Thankfully, this one is easy since the boss doesn't have any domain, so we're free to use any attack. Through all odds, Grim managed to do the unthinkable. He successfully defeated Grand Guignol despite the overwhelming disadvantages thrown at him. There was only one thing left to do. He picked up the essence left by the Grand Guignol and assumed the role of the creator, making him a god. Note then appeared and congratulated him on his success. She then confessed that she had been in love with him for the longest time but understood that they could never be together. Note then cut off her hair, signifying her decision to sever her ties with the past and move on. She then opened the door and after saying goodbye to Grim, forced him out of Wonderland. As soon as he left, Note was immediately surrounded by the Crawling One who leveled her as a traitor. One of them attempted to attack her only to be stopped by Dina, who came in the nick of time and saved her. However, this victory didn't last long as they were soon surrounded by the Crawling One. Meanwhile, Grim continued his escape. Along the way, the 3 Alice, Mother Alice, Daughter Alice, and Sister Alice appeared and blocked his path. Grim thought this would be the end of him, but then out of nowhere, Sister Alice betrays the other 2 Alice and let Grim escape. Mother and Daughter Alice were baffled by her decision and all 3 of them ended up fighting. Grim continued on, jumping pillars after pillars until eventually he reached a tall one. He took a deep breath and jumped, but right as he did that, the ground shook and Grim lost his balance. Luckily, Red Hood appeared and grabbed his hand. She tried pulling him up but couldn't do it due to the weight difference. Grim looked at her and saw her desperately trying to hold on, but for some reason he noticed that Red Hood had a scared look on her face. Following her gaze, he realized why. On the bottom, he could see the Crawling One rapidly approaching. It was here that Grim had a realization. Everyone he loved would always be in danger because of him, and right now Red Hood was about to be caught in it. He thought about it long and hard and decided that enough was enough. He didn't want to put anyone he loved in danger anymore. Grim reached for his sword, cut off his arm, and fell down together with the Crawling One. But miraculously, Grimm survived the fall, but at the cost of his freedom. All around him, the crawling ones surround him. Little by little, he lost whatever remained of himself. It began with his body, slowly rotting away, and it kept going until eventually he lost his memories. He couldn't even remember who he was and why he was down in this hellish place in the first place. As he questioned who or what he is, a single voice could be heard from deep within this hell. It told him to not give up and called out his name, Grimm. This jolted his memory and he remembered why he was down there. The voice talked to him again, telling him that he could escape to his reality now, but Grimm just sat there and refused that offer. He told the voice that his existence would only bring harm to everyone and that he just wanted to rest. Unwilling to give up, the voice asked if this is what he wanted. Was this the satisfying ending that he wanted after all the suffering he went through? All those countless resets that he had endured? Was this the ending that he wanted? Grimm went quiet for a while before answering the voice with a solid no. Satisfied, the voice revealed itself to be none other than Alice and hugged him. She apologized for not being able to protect him when he needed it the most, but promised to save him from this hell. Alice grabbed hold of his hand and guided him to the light. Grimm stepped inside of it but realized that he was going in alone. He asked Alice to come with him, but Alice refused. She asked him to forget everything that he had experienced in Wonderland and live his life normally. With a heavy heart, Grimm left but promised that he would come back to save her one day. The game ends, for real this time, with a short cutscene of Leaf freed from Wonderland before switching to Grimm holding Red Hood's hand while she's lying in bed. Having spent her entire life with the man she loved, Red Hood was satisfied. As the sun rises, she told Grimm that this was the happiest day of her life and died peacefully. The screen then slowly lost its color, symbolizing Grimm's heartbroken and empty feeling at the loss of his loved one. Black Souls is a game that might seem like a typical adult game at first, but after playing through the two games, I can promise you that it's much deeper than you thought. This section is dedicated to explaining a lot of the story and its lore. It's a long one, but I'll try my best to make it understandable as possible. This game, much like the Soul series, requires a lot of exploring and reading since the lore is scattered all over the two games. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to this Reddit post. Without it, I don't think I'll be able to piece together this explain section and explain it fully. So do check out the original post if you want to see more of it. So to understand the Black Soul series and its world, you need to know about the Cthulhu mythos first. I highly suggest you pick up one of H.P. Lovecraft's story because that's the best way to understand this world, but to give you guys the short lore, the Cthulhu mythos is a shared fictional universe and subgenre of cosmic horror created by H.P. Lovecraft. In his story, cosmic entities like Cthulhu, Yog-Sothoth, and Nyarlathotep are considered to be ancient gods that if a human being even caught a glimpse of them, they'll go insane. That is the basic explanation. I know it's not much, which is why picking up the book is much better since it'll give you a deeper explanation. Anyway, back to Black Souls. Now, despite the first game being the first in the series, the story itself is not organized. You might have noticed that Black Souls 1 is confusing and doesn't offer much explanation until you play the second game. This is where things starts to make sense. Now, the events of Black Souls started because one day, Jabberwock for no reason at all decided that she wanted to see the blackest soul there is. Basically, she wanted to see the most miserable person alive. But the problem here is that Jabberwock doesn't know how to do that. She can't just go around and make people miserable. So, what did she do? Well, she turned to Mary Sue. Mary Sue, or Yeb as she was known in the Lovecraftian world, is the neglected daughter of Shib-Niggurath, who you might remember as Baphomet in Black Souls 1. Anyway, when she found Mary Sue, Jabberwock discovered that she was not in the right mind since she had just witnessed her sibling killed in front of her. This was a problem for Jabberwock because Mary Sue had the ability to create realities, but the way she was right now, there's no way that power could work. So she took a different approach. She introduced Mary Sue to the world of fairy tale while also manipulating her feelings of hatred towards her mother, who she considered to be an asshole. Mary Sue, now addicted to the fairy tale genre, decided that she wanted to make her own story. She got to work immediately but ran into a problem. She failed a lot of times because she was indecisive in picking a protagonist. You see, Mary Sue has a lot of protagonists that she loves and she can't choose one of them. So what did she do? Well, she decided to stop stressing about it and pick all the author of every fairy tale book she read, mix their soul together into one single vessel and name it Grimm. This is the true origin of Grimm. Now, it wasn't mentioned how many authors she put inside of Grimm's soul, but according to her dialogue in Ending C in Black Souls 1, among these authors are Lewis Carroll, Hans Christian Andersen, and the Grimm brothers. Sometime after creating Grimm, Nyarlathotep, or the Crawling One, stole Grimm from Mary Sue and put him inside their own garden called Wonderland. By the way, the world they created are known as gardens. Mary Sue's garden is called Elysium, while the Crawling One's is called Wonderland. Just want to mention that in case you're confused why I called it a garden. Obviously, this enraged Mary Sue, but since she didn't know where her precious protagonist disappeared, she was forced to do nothing. That is, until something happened inside Wonderland. You see, while Grimm was inside that garden, he befriended Alice and a rabbit called the Prey Master. The three of them became good friends until Grimm and Alice started a romantic relationship. The Prey Master witnessed them kissing inside the library and he didn't like it at all. Not because he had romantic feelings for Alice, but because he felt like Grimm was trying to take Alice away from him. You gotta remember that the Prey Master was with her from day one and had been friends ever since. Grimm, on the other hand, was someone who appeared out of nowhere and only became their friends recently. So you can guess that the Prey Master didn't like this at all, and so he wishes to the god above to separate Alice and Grimm so things return to the way it was before. This wish went horribly wrong because Mary Sue heard it. She figured out where Grimm disappeared and broke into Wonderland. As a quote-unquote thanks, she granted the Prey Master's wish by ending the endless tea party, destroying the world completely before rewriting it to her ideal world and calling it the Lost Empire. She then forces the Prey Master to act as a pillar and put him in the Holy Forest so he could keep the place safe. But this rewriting didn't go unnoticed. Red Hood was supposed to have a normal fairy tale, but due to Mary Sue's meddling, her story was completely rewritten. In this new fairy tale, her grandpa is a racist and she's the target. Her grandma is not even her real grandma and she's forced to kill her, and the wolf that is supposed to kill her becomes her best friend named Toro. Red Hood realized that something was wrong with this world and came to a conclusion that someone had interfered with her life. So like any other depressed anime character who's experienced terrible stuff in their life, she blamed it on God and vowed to kill them. This explained Red Hood's vague goodbye later in her ending in Black Souls 1. Meanwhile, Mary Sue was having the time of her life and started doing whatever she wanted. Since Grimm was back in her possession again, naturally she wanted to start a new story. So using her power, she created all the heroines in Black Souls 1, and just for fun, she used Alice as a convenient tutorial NPC where her job was to introduce Grimm to the world, pick a class, and give himself a name. Once she fulfilled that role, Mary Sue killed her. This will come back to bite her later on since killing Alice alerted the Crawling One, who up to this point didn't even know that Mary Sue had infiltrated her garden. Thankfully, she decided to let it go for now since she was interested in observing Grimm. Anyway, once Mary Sue was done, she then self-inserted into Grimm's story as Leaf, the ultimate companion, and added a lore where fairies are immortal. This gave her a reason as to why she was able to come back every time she got killed without exposing her true identity. She did this because she wanted to enjoy her own creation and have sex with Grimm. Grimm then went on an adventure where he befriended all of his companions, but eventually he found out about the library in Wonderland and his task to complete the bookshelves. He completed them but found out that there was another set of bookshelves that he needed to fill, but this requirement was for him to kill his companion. Without much of a choice, he had to kill them, and this traumatized him greatly to the point where he was having nightmares later on. Still, he completed the task and found out that the world was nothing more than a story. The world started to collapse and Grimm found out that Leaf was the one behind all of this. She then revealed her identity and told him that this was all her doing. This ignited a deep hatred towards her where he beats the living shit out of her until she died, finally ending the story. Right? Well, no. You see, being killed was also part of her plan. Remember, Mary Sue is a god so she can't die, so what did she do? She resets the world, and things went back to how it was before. Except this time, Grimm had vague memories of the previous loop. With this knowledge, Grimm decided that he would do things differently this time and work with the Black Trial. A lot of things happened which led him to entering a covenant with Baphomet and fulfilling her task. In her final task, she asked Grimm to kill the Prey Master, which Grimm did without thinking of the consequences. This was a bad move because the Prey Master was the protector of the forest and him dying meant outside force could enter that place. So when Grimm returned to the Holy Forest, he found out that Baphomet had killed everyone there. Leaf and Grimm then went to the basement and confronted Baphomet. I think I should mention how Baphomet ended up in Mary Sue's garden. You see, the world had a community of witches living in a place called the Sabbath Forest. One of these witches is Glinda. One day, Glinda, for no apparent reason, decided she wanted to summon a demon. But what came out of that summoning was not the demon Leonard, but Baphomet herself. She was confused why she was summoned there and attempted to leave, only to find out that she couldn't. This is probably due to the fact that Mary Sue had already rewritten the world, and since she hated her mother, she decided it was a good idea to give her a role in the story as Baphomet. Conveniently, Shiop came to that world looking like a goat. Baphomet then, for unknown reason, created the Black Trial to hunt and kill sinners. Even Mabel doesn't know why she did that, but if you ask me, I think she did that to pass the time and collect information. Now, we can assume that she had gathered enough information about Leaf and determined that she was her daughter, which is why she targeted the Holy Forest since she knew that's where Mary Sue hang out a lot. Anyway, once Grimm arrived at the basement, she immediately asked Mary Sue to release her since she was bored of her games, but Mary Sue played it dumb, which angered her, and that led to a battle where she transformed into her true form. However, Grimm, being the overpowered character he is, easily defeated Baphomet. After she was defeated, Baphomet begged Mary Sue to release her because she was her mother, but Mary Sue refused to acknowledge that and killed her. At this point, Mary Sue decided to restart the story again, but the Crawling One intervened. I mean, she had reset the world 3 times already, they were getting bored of it. So in ending D, the Crawling One appeared, and with the help of Node, they sealed Mary Sue's power. The Crawling One then took Grimm to her garden, where they began a new story. After Nyarlathotep took Grimm from Mary Sue, she asked Node to imprison her somewhere where she couldn't interfere. Node did this by putting her in jail in Queensland and had Prickett watch over her, who, as you remember, is a creation of Nyarlathotep and the original Alice that Mary killed. So pretty ironic that she was watched over by the same thing she killed. Oh, and just for shits and giggle, Node changed her name from Mary Sue to Mary Ann, which, fun fact, that name belongs to the servant of the rabbit in the book Alice in Wonderland. Karma is real. Anyway, back to Nyarlathotep. Now that she got Grimm, she could finally launch her plan of wanting to understand human. You see, as mentioned by Mabel at the end of DLC 3, these eldritch beings have a strange obsession with humanity. They wanted to understand humans. Nyarla particularly wanted to feel love. She read books about it but couldn't understand any of it. So what did she do? Well, she decided to use Grimm and observe him. Nyarla heavily increases Lewis Carroll's influence on his mind. Since Lewis has a deep obsession with Alice, this explains why Grimm always replied with "I'm going to Alice" in Black Souls 2. But then she took it a step further. Nyarla searched around the world for Alice Hargrave, found her and absorbed her, taking her memory with her and assuming the role of Alice Liddell, becoming the ideal little girl that Lewis always wanted. Once all of that preparation was done, Nyarlathotep resets her world, but she wasn't doing it alone this time. Now remember when I mentioned that Mary Sue killing the original Alice alerted the Crawling One? Well, apparently, after Nyarla found out about it, she gathered a bunch of eldritch beings and showed them Grimm's adventure in that world. This sort of made him popular because not only was he made by Mary Sue herself, who they consider to be the best creator among the old ones, but he was also capable of having sex with an eldritch being, as he was seen doing it with Baphomet. This made him desirable to them and they wanted a part in this story. So with the world rebuilt and a bunch of eldritch beings wanting to participate, Nyarla was ready to start. But at the last minute, she found a few human books that explained the idea that love can fade, along with the idea that love can grow stronger the further you are from each other. This completely changed her view and she decided to take a different approach, by running away when Grimm got close to her because in her mind she thought, maybe if I let Grimm chase after me, our love would be stronger. This is why Grimm spent 90% of his time in Black Souls 2 chasing after Alice. Not only that, remember that participating eldritch being? They decided that what Nyarla was doing was a good idea and pretended to be Alice as well, just to lead Grimm on a wild goose chase. This happens for 64 cycles. This is what the number meant in Note's book if you take a look at it on Zero Cent. But over the course of this cycle, many of the old ones slowly left the story because they realized they were getting too obsessed with Grimm. Nyarla herself couldn't stop role-playing as Alice anymore. The old ones noticed this and that made them leave the story since they didn't want to become like her. The ones that stayed beside Node and Nyarlathotep were Yggdrasil, who roleplay as daughter Alice and Bandersnatch, Minogra, who roleplay as sister Alice and Jubjub, Yonde, who roleplay as mother Alice and Jabberwock, and Yig, who decided to just be himself, a serpent god. Mabel, or Yog-Sothoth, while she was not invited to the story, she just showed up anyway for fun's sake. She brought along her garden called Shatranj, forcefully connected to Nyarlathotep's garden. This is why the Chaos Dungeon exists. Now somewhere in that cycle, Node fell in love with Grimm and genuinely wanted to be with him. The only problem is, she wasn't human, and she knew better than Nyarlathotep that love between humans and non-humans is impossible, unless Grimm somehow became a god. Fortunately for Grimm, he could become one since Mary Sue made his soul compatible with godhood. With that knowledge, Node worked together with Prickett and Mabel to create a doll called Grand Guignol and infuse Mary Sue's power of creation into it. Later on, playwright Lord found out about this blatant plagiarism and was so furious about it that he traveled beyond the barrier of space and time itself to confront the plagiarist, since he's the original creator of Grand Guignol and he has every right to reclaim that creation. But when he saw that Grand Guignol preferred Grimm over him, that made him even angrier, hence why he kept harassing Grimm. Anyway, with Grand Guignol created, Node has all the pieces she needed to enact her quote-unquote turning Grimm into a god plan. except for one tiny problem. Grimm is still obsessed with Alice, and there's nothing she can do except wait. So Grimm went on a journey, screwing everyone he could find, resetting the world over and over again, until eventually they reached cycle number 65. This is where Grimm starts to see the real Wonderland. For us, this is where we start the hidden route, aka the Zero Cent playthrough. In this cycle, Grimm realized that he was in a loop, and he noticed that in every loop he would always succumb to carnal desire. Realizing that, he decided to do things differently by abandoning his lust. This turned out to be a good thing because he finally saw Wonderland for what it truly was, and because of that, Red Hood was finally able to get in contact with him. The two reconnect and decide to work together. With his newfound sanity, Grimm found out about Lewis Carroll's memory of Alice and his obsession with her, and he was horrified to learn about it. Now, a little lore about Lewis and Alice in this game. Disclaimer, this contains a lot of messed up stuff. Lewis Carroll was hired by the Dean of Oxford University to be a tutor for his daughters. Since they already knew each other for a long time, naturally the Dean trusted him. It was supposed to be a normal tutoring job, but Lewis had sex with the second daughter, Alice. The Dean found out about this and kicked him out of the family, never to see Alice again. But during his stay, the eldest daughter Lorena developed a crush on him. She would later sell her soul to the Eldritch God to go to Wonderland and become the Red Queen of Heart Lorena. The youngest one, Edith, had poor health and wishes that she could fly with her beloved Prince Jack. Edith somehow got her wish because when she died, Nyarla took her soul and turned her into a giant screaming bird in Wonderland, while Jack became a furry serial killer. So Lewis went on about his life, never to recover from the loss of his love. Alice was also unable to move on, and she married a guy who looked just like Lewis. However, here's the plot twist. Years later, Alice invited Lewis to her party. Lewis was excited because he could finally see her again. But when he arrived at the party, he saw an old version of Alice and he had a mental breakdown. It's here he realized that he didn't love her as a person but loved the little girl version of her. So he ran back to his home, wishing that none of that night ever happened and only wanted to be with his dear little girl again. Mary Sue showed up and fulfilled his wish by dragging his soul into what would eventually become Grimm. Understanding now why he was obsessed with Alice, Grimm decided to make things right. He started another cycle, and instead of choosing the fake Alice, he decided to call Alice his real name. This broke the entire flow of the story, and he was taken to the little girl's world. There, Jabberwock, Bandersnatch, and Jub confronted him. They were pissed off at Grimm because he ruined their fun, so they decided to kill him. However, Grimm was saved by Heinz and Meriphilia. Having lost the fight against the three of them, Bandersnatch and Jub lost interest and decided to leave, since they never considered this thing to be serious, and to them this was just another game. Something they participated in to pass the time. But one of them didn't think it like that, and that is none other than Jabberwock. Remember, she started this entire thing by manipulating Mary Sue to become obsessed with Fairy Tale, all because she wanted to see the blackest soul there is. So she wasn't gonna let anyone ruin this. Jabberwock backstabbed Bandersnatch and Jub and then fought Grimm. She did this to put Grimm back into the right path of the story. But Grimm, being the OP character he is, easily defeated her and ended her life. Grimm continued on to the end with Red Hood, but along the way Mary Sue ambushed them. She then made Grimm choose between her and Red Hood. Obviously, Grimm chose Red Hood since he never liked Mary Sue for what she did to him. This angered Mary Sue, who then fought both of them. Unfortunately, since the Crawling One and Note sealed her power, she got killed permanently, but not before revealing that she had tampered with Red Hood's body and Grimm's fate. Red Hood would die by the age of 20, and everyone that befriended and interacted with Grimm would die. Since he's an undead, this meant an eternity of loneliness. This obviously pissed off both of them, but they couldn't do anything about it now that Mary Sue was dead. Eventually, they found Nyarlathotep, who went insane due to being obsessed with Grimm, that she could no longer return to her original form. This made it easier for Grimm and Red Hood to kill her. After Nyarlathotep died, her garden collapsed, allowing Grimm and Red Hood to return to the real world. The two lived there happily ever after, just like what Red Hood always wanted. Pretty wholesome end, but we're forgetting one thing. Gran Guignol still exists. You see, when it was created, Node placed it separately from Wonderland. This allows it to not only maintain the cycle, but also prevent it from being destroyed should anything happen to the garden. And as expected, Wonderland was destroyed because of Nyarla's death. But since Gran Guignol exists in a separate place, this left it completely unharmed, allowing it to use its power to forcibly pull them back into the story and create a new timeline. Now, all the things that Grimm did, such as killing Mary Sue and the Crawling Ones in the previous cycle, disappear like it never happened, all because the machine that controlled Wonderland still existed. So the solution to this is to kill Gran Guignol, but that's easier said than done. Upon returning to the library dream, Grimm talked to Cheshire, who sent him to Carroll River, where he found a secret passage that took him to a snowy area. There, he fought many opponents that mirrored his desire, such as Florence Nightingale. Florence is obsessed with trying to save everyone, no matter how bad the situation is, a reflection of Grimm's own inability to save anyone. Another one is Gerda, who is obsessed with finding her brother Kai, a reflection of Grimm's obsession with Alice. Her journey through a dangerous land just to find out that Kai is a fake version of her brother mimic Grimm's situation and his inability to ever find the real Alice. Anyway, after confronting all of the opponents, Grimm entered Winterbell, Node's home, a peaceful place filled with memories and home to children of Node and Grimm. There, he was put to the test as he assumed the role of Lewis Carroll and found Alice Hagriff. But this time, instead of falling into temptation, he did the right thing by completely doing things differently from what Lewis did. This convinced Mabel that he was ready for the upcoming challenge. After passing the trial, he found Heinz the Frog from Black Souls 1 and asked him to take care of his daughter before entering the backstage of the Grand Guignol accompanied by Mabel. But as they neared Grand Guignol, Mabel was suddenly trapped inside a cage. Grimm tried his hardest to free her, but Mabel refused to help and told him that she was there because she betrayed him. The betrayal that she mentioned was her plan with Node to make Grimm a god by becoming one with Grand Guignol, but Grimm didn't care about any of that and still wanted to save her. Mabel then revealed that the cage was actually her punishment. You see, the reason why Mabel died here was because she tried to act like a human, not because of her betrayal. Remember, Mabel said that for eldritch being, understanding human emotion is beyond them, but Mabel was the only one who managed to understand what it's like to be a human. Unfortunately for her, the Eldritch God considered this to be a crime worthy of death. Still, she didn't regret her action because of what she experienced. Grimm then reached Grand Guignol and resisted becoming one with it, and instead chose to destroy it along with Wonderland. After winning against literally God itself, Node came to see Grimm and finally accept the reality that the relationship between a non-human and human cannot happen. She cut off her hair, symbolizing her decision to move on from her past. Now that Grand Guignol was destroyed, Nyarlathotep was pissed that her garden was falling apart. She then confronted Grimm, only to be stopped by Node and Cheshire. Grimm used this opportunity to run, but again was stopped by the three Alice. But in the last minute, Jub, who played as little sister Alice, betrayed the other two and fought them, allowing Grimm to escape. On and on, Grimm ran until he held from the edge of a cliff onto Red Hood's hand. Unfortunately, the Alice crawls up to him. Grimm realizes that all he would ever accomplish is bring other misery, and unwilling to drag Red Hood along, he cut off his hand to spare Red Hood from this misery. Grimm then fell down and into Nyarlathotep's clutches, but Prickett came in and saved him. Well, remember when I said that Prickett is Nyarlathotep's extension? She is the only one other than Node who genuinely fell in love with Grimm. Prickett used her connection to break in and rescue Grimm and then lead him to the exit, hoping he one day forget about his trauma and her and can be happy. Grimm then promised to save her too because that's just how he is. He then escaped to the real world with Red Hood, but in the end, Grimm never got his happy ending. Remember, this is the new timeline that Grand Guignol created. This means that Mary Sue is still alive, which means her curse is pretty much still in effect. Red Hood experienced her short life as a normal girl with Grimm, and on her 20th birthday, she mentioned that that was the happiest day of her life and died peacefully, leaving Grimm all alone forever. And that is the story of Black Souls, a tragic fairy tale game. I was surprised to find out that this game is really deep. From the lore to the story to how you connect it, it's so deep and amazing, and I love every second of it. Again, huge shout out to the Reddit post that details the lore. Without it, I don't think I can make this lore explained since I'm missing a few important details. All of that is in the description below, so do check it out if you want to read them. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed my video, don't forget to subscribe so you get to see more content like this. Like the video so I know that you enjoyed it. Check out my previous video if you haven't yet, and become a member to support the channel and get more interesting stuff in the future. That's all for me. See you.